Hello, welcome to Secure the Continent with me, Benga Aborowa. This is a show where we bring you all the latest security updates happening on the continent of Africa. But before we delve into today's program, let me bring you the latest security headlines on the continent. Germany urges Mali to sever ties with Russia in order to attract support from Europe. At least 154 killed in Plateau State, Nigeria, as gunmen attack villages. And 5 soldiers have been killed in Benin National Park attack. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. Now, today on Secure the Continent, we will be looking at the security situation in the Republic of Benin, a country which is among the most stable countries of the Economic Community of West Africa's state sub-region. However, organized crime led by loose criminal networks and the recent spillover of conflicts from neighboring countries like Niger, Nigeria and Burkina Faso in particular are the major Achilles heels of Benin's current security landscape. We'll have more for you in this package.
Since December 2021, the Northern Republic of Benin has experienced at least 9 attacks linked to extremists in its borderlands, and the worst recorded in February this year. The violent events in Benin have mirrored the first ever militant Islamic attack in neighboring Togo and at least 14 related incidents in Côte d'Ivoire. On the 8th and 10th of February, Benin saw its deadliest attack as patrols struck improvised explosive devices in a national park in northern Benin. 1 soldier and 8 park officers were killed in that attack, and 12 others were wounded. Competition for land rights among pastoralist communities and the inability to settle land disputes amicably have led to the rise of extremists in the northern region of Benin. Despite the ban on transhumance, offshoots of farmer-herder clashes are still very much visible in the region. The heavy presence of unemployed youths is also a contributing factor to the current challenges in northern Benin, as many of them are used as agents of violence. Threats of expansions of militant groups like al-Qaeda and Islamic states into countries in coastal West Africa are also a major problem, and Benin's current challenges may not be unconnected to this worrisome trend. Another African security challenge may be rising in Benin.
Now, joining me this evening on Secure the Continent are Janine Ella Abatan. She is a researcher at the Institute for Security Studies. She joins in live from Dakar, Senegal. Also joining me on the program this evening is Dr. Bertin Kovib. He is a former presidential candidate in the Republic of Benin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Secure the Continent. And one welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I'd like to start with Dr. Kovib. Benin is amongst the most stable countries of the ECOWAS community. However, there has been a spate of rising extremist violence in northern Benin. What is responsible for this?
Well, what is happening in Benin is something that we have imported from the north of, let's say, from Mali, from Niger, from Burkina Faso, and I will say from even Nigeria. You know, a wise man must help his neighbor when his house is burning to out that fire. Good. When Boko Haram has started in Nigeria, Benin, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, even Côte d'Ivoire and Togo, were the countries where those people were securing their own family. At the end of the day, they has known exactly the land because many villages has mosques built by those people. So they have been preparing this since a while. Now, what is happening in Benin? As Russia has helped the army of Mali, and the army of Mali now is beating those people in Mali, they are moving down. And when you move from Mali directly and you come to the south, the region you have is where we are having problem in Benin Republic now. That is the truth. People who are really killing people in Penjari, in that region in the north of Benin, they could have people who are hosting them from Benin Republic, but most of them are running from the field of Mali, the field of Burkina Faso, the field of Niger. So that's what is happening.
Thank you, Dr. Kofi. I'd like to bring in Ella here. Now, Ella, it's quite a complex situation, what is happening in the Republic of Benin. So my question to you is, who are the actors and groups responsible for this rise in extremist violence, and what are the dynamics of this conflict?
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the question. Maybe before I come to the actors, a quick one on the previous question that you asked about the causes, right, of what we have been seeing in Benin. I think as much as the expansion of violent extremism to Benin is an external threat, as Dr. Kofi already alluded to, the fact that Benin is in a geographical context where we have seen a rising violent extremism related incident, but also attack in Burkina Faso, in Niger, but also in neighboring Nigeria. Research at the Institute for Security Study has shown that the expansion of violent extremism also has local roots, right? So there are a number of vulnerabilities that violent extremist groups are tapping into in Benin that are local realities that need to be better understood to be able to comprehend what is happening in terms of expansion of violent extremism. Now, to come back to your question on the actors, so the number of attacks that we have seen in northern Benin, especially in the department of Atakora, but also in the Alibori department, have not been claimed. So it's very difficult to say who are the group behind it. However, the modus operandi of those attacks point out to violent extremist group operating in neighboring Burkina Faso, but also in Niger, either group affiliated to al-Qaeda. We've heard a lot of talk regarding a group affiliated to the group for the support of Islam and Muslim, Katiba Masina, which is also an affiliated group to JNIM, operating in Burkina Faso, especially eastern Burkina Faso that borders Benin, but also group affiliated to al-Qaeda.
Now, staying with you, Ella, a number of these attacks have taken place on the Beninois side of the W. Ali Penjari Park complex, Park W. Is there any reason why a lot of these attacks are happening around the border of eastern Burkina Faso and also this parks in the north of Benin?
So you rightly pointed out that most of the attacks that we have seen in Benin actually happened either inside the park. You will recall the May 2019 kidnapping of the two French tourists and the killing of the guide in the Penjari Park, and more recently in February, the most deadliest attack that Benin has seen in Park W, and a few days back on Monday, another attack in the Penjari Park. And from our reading and analysis, one of the reasons why those two parks, including the Ali Park, which form part of a complex, so you have the W Ali Penjari complex, might be attractive to violent extremist group is because first of all, it allows a group to move around three countries, so Burkina Faso, Niger, and Benin. But the tree cover in those natural parks also make aerial surveillance very difficult. Which can provide an area of refuge for this group. But you also have the possibility for those groups to tap into different type of resources, right, through poaching, through illegal fishing, that can actually help them raise resources, different type of resources, whether financial resources, but also subsistence need for the fighter. So those are some of the few reasons that might make some of the pack that you are showing on the screen attractive to violent extremist groups.
Okay, thank you, Ella. Now, Dr. Covey, Ella did mention fishing and some of the ways these militant groups are able to fund their operations. My question is, are there local people on the ground in Republic of Benin how are they able to recruit members into their ranks, or are they all foreigners? And how do these militant groups fund some of their operations, Dr. Covey?
Well, as a politician and in Benin Republic, I have even been in jail for 6 months because they were thinking that I was supporting those kind of people. So I know them a little. What I will say, this situation is imported to Benin Republic. But since 2015, I was calling already people in Benin Republic to tell them that the state of Benin Republic has forgotten to secure some part of the land, particularly with the border with Burkina Faso. There is a place that is considered as a no man's land. No, there is no army of Benin Republic there, no army of Burkina Faso there, and many of them are there. There has been building some mosques, even digging wells for our population since 2014. So I am sure they have people who are supporting them, but not in the way of having violence. And what is even happening in Benin, this is my point of view. Those people, sometimes when they enter, why are they fighting at the border between Benin and Burkina Faso? Because sometimes they will be running from the army of Burkina Faso. They enter in Benin Republic without knowing that they are even in Benin Republic. And the army of Benin Republic will meet them. That's why the fight will start. Otherwise, they don't have any real objective in Benin Republic that I will say, this is what they are asking from Benin Republic to do, or this is why they are fighting Benin Republic. We don't really know what they are looking for. So for sure, they will have people who are supporting them, but not openly, because 3 months ago, I was in the region to talk to the villagers to really tell them if they want security, they have to cooperate with the state. And none of them has agreed that they know them. Another reason, and lady, I forgot her name, she said the truth. They are in Panjari for hunting. We have many animals there. And they are eating every time. They are also fishing. So they could have economic activity in that region. And from my point of view, this is not the first time they are in that region. They have been there for more than 10 years. The only thing today is Benin Republic has brought its army in that region, and that's why the two people are fighting themselves. Otherwise, their refuge was that part since more than 10 years, and we didn't know.
Okay, back to you, Ella. Ella, Dr. Covey just mentioned, just painted a scenario. He said they've been there in this park, so there's been no confrontation. And it's when the Burkina Faso forces or the Beninois forces try to engage them, that's what leads to these confrontations. Do these armed groups have a modus operandi? What are they fighting for? Are they expanding territory? And what's their aim?
So it's difficult, right? It's difficult unless you are the leaders of those groups to say what are their aim. But one thing for sure that we have seen through research that we have been conducting at the ISS, talking directly with individuals, whether in the Sahel or in the Lake Chad Basin region, but also since 2020 in coastal states, speaking with people who have collaborated directly with these violent extremist groups who are either in jail now or who are back into the community. One thing is that these groups often tap into local vulnerabilities, right? In Benin, in Togo, in Cote d'Ivoire, we talk about Cote d'Ivoire, in Ghana, the same type of local vulnerability that groups have exploited in the Sahel and the Lake Chad Basin area to expand themselves to
and
continue.
What are some of these local vulnerabilities?
I'll point you to a few of them. So we already talked about during the conversation the fact that group might be tapping into a natural park for their own financing, right? But also to be able to exploit different type of often illicit activities, but also illicit activities such as poaching, illicit fishing in those packs to fund themselves. One thing that we have seen as local vulnerability is the porosity of borders, right? In many of these bordering departments or localities in Benin, we have also seen the way they are trying to instrumentalize or exploit local conflict, farmer-herder conflict. That is a reality in all 4 northern departments. In Benin is the same thing in Nigeria, from where you are calling me from. We have seen how this group often try to position themselves either as arbiter in local conflicts to take sides, so providing justice for one side against the other as a way to recruit people, but also as a way to get financial resources. In Benin, we also, our data has already pointed out that they might be trying to exploit some unpopular government decision. For example, I'll give you 2 examples here. The decision taken by the Benin government to ban some activities from taking place in the PAC, in the PAC Penjari, but also in the WPAC, such as hunting. And this has been a strategy used. The frustration from hunting community is a strategy that has been exploited by violent extremist groups in the Sahel to actually recruit among that community.
Sorry to butt in here, Ella. So when the government stops groups or societies and villages that have been farming in the Penjari Park for centuries, do they provide them with alternatives?
I think that is the question, right? The type of alternative that are provided. And in cases when alternatives are not provided, that is when you create resentment that are exploited by violent extremist groups. In the case of Benin, so what has been done since the African Park Network, which is a South African conservation organization, took over Park Penjari and later on Park W, they actually banned some activities inside the park for conservation reasons, such as hunting, farming, fishing in the park, and they provided an area, so what they call la zone tampon. They provided an area where community can still conduct some of these activities. However, for community, they see this natural park as being an area that belongs to community, where they need to have access to continue some of their activities. So the alternative provided to community at the moment are seen by those community as being insufficient. So they don't understand why government will ban them from conducting some of these activities in the park. And group have already, from our research in Burkina Faso, for example, we saw how they tap into some of these frustration to recruit people and to get hunting community on their side, but also to get farming community on their side.
Okay, thank you very much, Ella. I would like to bring in Dr. Covey here. Dr. Covey, when Ella was making her last point, she did mention the porous borders. The Republic of Benin shares a border, 2,000 kilometers of borders with 4 countries, 3 of them, which are Burkina Faso, Niger, and Nigeria, currently experiencing violent extremism. And some analysts have also said that coastal states like Togo, Benin Republic, risk a jihadist contagion, that there's a risk of a spillover. Are these concerns legitimate, or are they just alarmist?
Well, the situation, I will first of all answer, try to comment what Mrs. Ella was saying. The situation of Benin is quite different to what Mrs. Ella was saying. You know, as a politician, we have our supporters everywhere. There was really a problem when the government said they don't want people to have some activities in the park. The hunters and other fishermen was making problem. But we got solution for that already. Now, when we consider the conflict between the farmers and people who have their animals, this is not in that region, it is in Borgu, and nothing is happening in Borgu. And when you consider, you look at the situation, the way they are attacking our soldiers, I am still convinced that it's not something that is really planned against us. Is when they are running from Burkina Faso, they enter on our territory without even noticing that they are in Benin Republic, and they have in face of them our army, and they start fighting. That's one. The second thing, and Mrs. Ella is right, they are looking for economic interest in our region. Now, the mistake of Benin Republic, of Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, is we had not gathered hand with Nigeria when Nigeria was facing that situation. When Mali was facing the situation, everybody is only at his own, looking at his neighbor struggling. So the solution is us to work together. And I can assure you, those group of terrorists were in Benin Republic already without never attacking nobody in Benin Republic, because their families are in the north of Benin. You even see them dressing, you don't see their face. Everything is black. Their women, their children were schooling in our country. And nobody, we were talking about, we are a democracy. We cannot tell them anything because we don't have any proof. So I don't think these people started attacking Benin Republic now. As I'm concerned, I just want us to think about something. It is when Mali asked some other armies to leave their territory that these people started to attack Benin Republic. So it's a way of convincing Benin that we need help so we can have a foreign army on our territory to secure us. That's what I'm thinking. Because when I look at it, it is quite strange that it is when some army are leaving Mali that now we are having attack in Benin Republic and in the north of Togo, while they are saying they want to move their army to Benin Republic, and the population of Benin was saying no. When they are attacking you and somebody says he will bring his army to help you, won't you say yes? So I want Mrs. Ella to help us to think also about that, if it's not a political agenda or something that people are trying to convince our countries that of a need of having foreign army on our territory.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Covey. Ella, Dr. Covey himself said he's a politician, and politicians have a way of disagreeing with academics, and not all the time. Sometimes they agree, and it's very hard to find a middle ground. So what is the true situation of things on the ground, and what methodology does the Institute of Security Studies use to gather intelligence and feedback on these issues and in these areas?
So maybe to clarify, we don't gather intelligence, right? We gather data from research in the different countries where we conduct research. And maybe to clarify, I'm from Benin myself. So I'm not an external actor looking at what is happening in Benin, but I'm also a concerned citizen trying to understand what is happening in Benin. And at the Institute for Security Studies, we have been looking at the expansion of violent extremism since 2012. And as an African institution, the only way for us to contribute to a better understanding of what is happening, but also to decision-making processes, for us is to go beyond perception, right? To go beyond what we might think is happening, but really to speak with people who are living in contexts where these groups are operating. These contexts are not far away. The context that we are seeing in northern Benin is someone's village, is someone's place of birth. So going straight to those contexts, speaking with some of these people who have been in contact with violent extremist groups or who have found themselves in the different violent extremist groups operating, whether in the Sahel, the Lake Chad Basin, and in Benin. And in Benin, we have been raising the alarm since 2016. You will remember when we saw the first attack in Grand Bassam in Cote d'Ivoire, which already highlighted the capacity of violent extremist groups operating in the Sahel to actually stage attack far away from the areas of operation. If I can maybe now come to some of the reasons that we have seen from our research that might be driving the expansion of violent extremism. It's true that there might be political reasons But if there are political reasons, I think our state can only act on what is happening now, the reality on the ground. And let me just give you a few examples. One thing that we have seen that might be leading to expansion of attack might be an attempt by different violent extremist groups, I've talked about al-Qaeda, but also the Islamic State, to actually escape military pressure put upon them in the Sahel. You will recall operation conducted by the G5 Sahel, operation conducted by national forces, but also operation conducted with the Barkhane force. So moving out from the Sahel, whether temporarily, to actually escape from that military pressure might be a reason why we are seeing an extension of attack in Benin. This extension of attack might also be a result of tension between the different groups. You will recall that since 2019, there have been an ongoing conflict between al-Qaeda affiliated group, but also the Islamic State. And recently, at the border between Mali and Niger, this tension restarted again, they resume again. So this might also be an option for group. It might be a pushing group to look for new areas of operation or new area where they can actually try to set up their bases or perform. But also the attack that we have been seeing, and Dr. Kuvi alluded to this, might be retaliation to military operation conducted by different coastal states. Coastal states have been conducting operation bilaterally. Benin, different coastal states have reinforced security measures at the northern border, but they're also conducting operation within the framework of the Accra Initiative. So attack might be a response of violent extremist group to some of these security measures that have been taken by violent extremist group. But these attacks also show the limitation, right, of different measures, of different responses that have been put in place both in the Sahel but also in the Lake Chad Basin. But I will also argue in many coastal states to respond to violent extremism. And for me, there's a real need for us to learn lessons from what has been done in other contexts. Dr. Kobe talked about the fact that often when there's a spread of violent extremism, states don't help each other. Benin, for example, already back in 2015 joined the multinational joint task force without having been attacked. So I think some countries have been more proactive than others, and there's a need for more collaboration.
Thank you very much for that clarity, Ella. Dr. Kovi and Ella, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll be looking at solutions to this. Ella did mention the Accra Initiative. We'll be looking at that and explore more ways to deal with the rising violent extremism in Northern Republic of Benin. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Secure the Continent, and we've been discussing the rising extremism in Northern Republic of Benin. I still have here with me Janine Ella Abatan and Dr. Bertin Kovi. Now, Dr. Kovi, just before we went on the break, I was talking about finding solutions. Now, what is the government's response to this violence that we've seen so far? And does the government of the Republic of Benin have the capacity to man these often porous borders that these extremists come from? Are you satisfied with the government's response so far, Dr. Kovi?
Yeah, a state has the capacity to fight those people, particularly a state like Benin Republic. But the first thing to do is to communicate with the people who are in those regions And the second is to see how we can have solution for poverty, because when somebody has, let's say, 1 million naira or 10,000, let's say 1 million naira in his bank account, I don't think he will take that risk. So the first reason is people are poor. They are not having economic activities. And when you are not having economic activities, somebody can come and give you some few money and you will follow him doing what you are not supposed to do. As I'm concerned, as a politician from Benin Republic, what we have done is we went on ground to talk to the elders in the region. We gathered them, we spoke with them, we asked them to give us information, because without information, you cannot fight those kind of people. But yes, I don't think the solution is military solution. I think the solution is really convincing people who are living in the region to really see how they can give information to the state, and the state have to be present on that ground, because many of those villages, they don't have school, they don't have water system, nothing. So that's why sometimes you see they will come and build mosques, and later they will dig a well for them. If tomorrow they are moving with their gun, nobody will stop them. I think the solution is not the army. If the solution was army, I don't think they will be killing our people. First of all, we have to talk with the people living there and have economic solution to those people who are living there. That's what I think.
Thank you, Dr. Covey. Now, Ella, earlier during the course of the program, Dr. Covey did say something about if your house is burning, if your neighbor's house is burning, you cannot unlook it. You have to do something about it, or there will be a contagion effect and the fire will spread. The Accra Initiative was launched in 2017 by Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Togo, and the Republic of Benin to counter transnational organized crime alongside member states of borderlands. The Republic of Benin has also participated in multilateral initiatives like the Multinational Joint Task Force with Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria, which you mentioned earlier. Now, how helpful have these initiatives been in helping securing the Republic of Benin?
So maybe 2 points very quickly. So like you said, Benin has been involving the multinational joint task force that is aimed at fighting Boko Haram. And from that, I think Benin has learned a lot of lesson on the challenges that have been facing the multinational joint task force fight Boko Haram. Now, to come to the initiative of Accra, l'initiative d'Accra, yes, I think it actually provides a framework for different affected states to come together to share intelligence, to share information on the different challenges that they are facing, but also to learn lessons. You know that as part of the Accra initiative, you have a coastal state, so you already talked about Benin, Togo, Ghana, Côte d'Ivoire, but you also have Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, who have been dealing for the past 10 years with violent extremism. Yes. So the Accra initiative really provides a space for sharing lessons, but also learning lessons from what has been done in other contexts to avoid repeating the same mistake as coastal states such as Benin try to prevent or to respond to violent extremism. The Accra Initiative has also provided this space for military operation conducted. There has already been 4 military operations conducted, and they're planning to conduct a 5th military operation. And this military operation, the aim has often been to prevent the spillover of violent extremism, but also to fight transnational organized crime. And I completely agree with Dr. Kobe here.
Have these operations been effective, Ella?
So I think, and that was my last point before you came in. I think military operations are not the only solution. Military operations are important because from our research, we see that there's a need expressed by community for protection, right? So the aim of military solution need to change from neutralizing leaders of violent extremist group or arresting criminals to also focusing on protecting civilians. So civilian protection need to be key as part of a military solution. But military solution alone is not sufficient to fight violent extremism. There's a need to really look at the different vulnerability present in Benin, a deep sense of neglect of certain community, the lack of infrastructure in some communities, but also the deep sense of mistrust, right, between the state but also citizen. So there is a need for development project aimed at reinforcing the resilience of local communities, but also responding to the need of local communities. So the state need to be seen as being useful to people, as responding to their need. This will be the only way we can bring the state closer to people in the fight against violent extremism, which relies on information provided by community. And the only way they can do that is if they trust the state, if they work with the state.
Thank you, Ella. Now, Dr. Covey, President Patrice Talon's government created a new domestic institution for countering terrorism, such as the High-Level Committee for the Fight Against Terrorism and Insecurity at Borders. Critics have said the president has only used this to throw opponents in jail. You also said you spent a few months in jail yourself as an opposition politician. How effective have these institutions been, and has anyone or group been convicted under this new domestic institutions that were created for fighting rising extremism?
Anyway, I knew this question will come. Well, terrorism has different faces. When we are talking about the create, we call it the create. I have not seen nobody arrested from the north to that court yet. But what I want to, so that has not been really useful in this particular fight about terrorism. Now, I want to point out something. The military action, because this morning they were having a meeting at Hotel Azalai at Cotonou this morning, and fortunately I attended that meeting. And I told them, each country, there was many countries of West Africa talking about those kind of solutions. But I told them you cannot fight. There will be a military program of Benin Republic today. Tomorrow, another military program from Burkina Faso. No, they have to do that military program the same day. People from Benin will work. 12 people from Burkina Faso. Niger will also work. Mali will work. Niger. So they will do it the same day. Then there will be no way of retreating for those people who are killing innocent. Like Chad was fighting Boko Haram. When they came to the border and they defeated Boko Haram, when they came to the border of Nigeria, I was surprised to see Nigeria refusing to the army of Chad to pursue Boko Haram people into Nigeria. And I even asked myself if it was in the interest of Nigeria to have Boko Haram, or why Nigeria army couldn't also start their movement to fight them at the same time. So the solution, if I was the head of state of the head of the army, all those armies will fight them at the same moment, from Burkina Faso, from Benin Republic, from Niger, and they will have nowhere to retreat. That's the only solution if we really want to use military solution.
Okay, there should be greater synergy and cooperation amongst ECOWAS member states. Yes. Yes, thank you, Dr. Covey. Ella, Mohammed Ibn Chambers, a special representative and head of the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, told the United Nations Security Council in January that West African governments need to address the roots of exclusion of historically marginalized groups, a critical step to gain greater willingness in these communities to cooperate with the government against extremists. And I believe both of you have alluded to this point earlier. Are there historically marginalized groups in Benin? And what is the government in Cotonou doing to address their plight? Do they even recognize that these groups exist?
So he's the former UN special representative for the Sahel. There's a new special envoy. But I think the Benin government actually recognized that there are marginalized localities, marginalized communities. Already in 2012, the Benin government put in place the Benin agency, the integrated, it's called ABGF in French, which is an integrated agency that is supposed to help bring the state closer to community, especially in border area, by building infrastructure. I think that agency has been doing a lot, but there's still a lot to be done. From interviews we conducted in northern Benin, you can still see, even going in some of these localities, you can still see that it's difficult to have access to some of these localities, but also that basic services are lacking in some of these localities. You have basic services such as water, education, sanitary, communication. So there's still a lot to be done. But the government,
they do have, these departments have heads. There's government presence there. There's the army. There's local government. How come they're not feeling the effects of government? It's been more than 60 years of independence. Why is development slow to catch up in these areas?
I think this is a reality in all African countries, right? Not only a symptom of underdevelopment in Benin. I think all African countries are faced with this challenge of bringing the state closer in all localities. And I think this is the time for all coastal states to actually invest in some of these communities that are often neglected, that are far away from capital cities, which in the case of Benin is all the way in the south. There's a need now for government to invest in some of these localities to better understand the need of some of these community and be able to respond to this need. And for me, the key here will be a need to invest in prevention, but also in good governance. But also in development in some of these communities. Benin government has been doing this through ABGF, so l'Agence béninoise de gestion intégrée des frontières. There's still much to be done. I think ABGF has identified its need. The ABGF needs support to keep doing the work that it has been doing, and the Benin government itself needs to continue investing in some of these border communities that are often far from decision-making circle, but also from decision-making.
Thank you, Ella. Now, Dr. Covey, just before we begin to wrap things up, I mean, the Republic of Benin has been one of the most peaceful nations in the West Africa sub-region, if not in the whole of the African continent. Do you think the Benin government, this present government of President Patrice Talon, will nip this growing extremist threat in the bud, or do you think it will become a new frontier for jihadist groups and provide them a safe haven?
Well, this, as a politician, the way I look at it, and 1 year ago, I was still the leader of the whole opposition, shouting against Patrice Talon every day. Well, what I want to say, the situation we are facing now is something that, even all the development that we have at Cotonou, if that was in those regions, we will still have that problem. As far as Mali is fighting those groups in Mali, Burkina Faso is fighting them. Nigeria is fighting them because some of them, they will enter from KB, they enter in Malambil, they are at the border of Burkina Faso. So we are importing this security from other countries. Well, we have our own problems, but as a politician, if the people were capable to fight for themselves, I think I would have done something serious fighting the government that I am working with now. I don't think my people have that courage. Many people, I know them a little. They prefer somebody killing them than going to fight for something. So those who are fighting, for sure, they are not from Benin. Because I am known Benin calling for fighting the government. And there was nobody to fight. Benin people are people who are always afraid of fighting something. So when I look at the courage of people who are fighting, I don't think they are from our country. Of course, they could have some supporters, that's for sure. But this is something that we have imported from outside.
Now, Ella, just before we wrap things up, Dr. Kofi says as long as there's violent extremism in the neighboring countries of Nigeria, Niger, Burkina Faso, there would always be that existential threat to the peace and stability of the Republic of Benin. Do you think the government has the right strategies, has adopted the right strategies to mitigate this threat of extremist violence? And as a Beninois yourself, do you see this extremism being nipped in the bud, or are we looking at another frontier for extremist activities?
I think the government has taken a lot of action, right? Both military and non-military action. We already talked about some of the military action and non-military action that the government has taken. For me, I will focus on 3 things, right? I think one thing the government needs to avoid, and also citizens, one thing that needs to be avoided is seeing violent extremism threat as an external threat. If you take the case of Boko Haram, for so long, Niger, Chad, Cameroon has seen Boko Haram as a Nigerian problem. So and now we know what is the case of Boko Haram expansion in both those 4 states. For long, in the Sahel, violent extremism has been seen as a problem of Mali. So I think government in coastal state in Benin, citizen, we need to avoid the mistake of seeing violent extremism only as an external threat. We need to better understand the local vulnerabilities that violent extremist group can be tapping into in our own countries. And we need to have the humility to also learn lessons, right? To learn lessons from other states who has been going through the prevention and fighting violent extremism for so long. And we also need to learn lessons from what we have done so far. Benin needs to learn lessons from what it has been doing since 2019 to prevent violent extremism, and to see where there are gaps and how those gaps can be filled, and who can provide those support that Benin is needed.
Thank you very much, Ella. I'd like to say a big thank you to you both, Janine Ella Abaton, a researcher at the Institute of Security Studies in Dakar, and Dr. Bertin Kofi for being a part of this show. I do appreciate your insights and knowledge on the subject matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, in order to combat the threat of extremism, every hand must be on deck. Not just the government, but also the local populations of the relevant countries have an important role to play. Government measures will not be effective in combating their expansion unless they are accompanied by social and economic measures to resolve the conflict. Thank you for watching Secure the Continent today. I'm Benga Aborowa. Join me same time next week for another edition of Secure the Continent. Bye-bye.